Prince Andrew, get the massage. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Long-term viewers of mine know that in order to help you understand all about the different types of narcissist, I have a classification system which operates by defining narcissists by reference to lesser, mid-range, greater, ultra, and subschools in relation to the first three categories. I also have cadres. This comprehensive classification system takes into account the varying differences and similarities between narcissists and makes it far easier for you to understand what you're dealing with. Prince Andrew is what I call an upper lesser type A, the affable arsehole, in that he comes along with his jokes and his gags and he seems fairly personable, but you soon realise that the guy is an arsehole. There's no facade with him. What you see is what you get. He's the type of chap that walks in a room, thinks it's entertaining to slap the waitress on the backside, make a joke about the size of the breasts of the woman serving the canapes, and then guffaw about his latest activities. He doesn't see that there's anything wrong with that. And as a consequence of this, one of the major problems that the upper lesser type A has is that they invariably have something that comes and bites them on the backside at a later juncture. The upper lesser type A is a superficial beast. They're the type of individual that if you were to go to them and say, "Oh no, my wife's left me, I'm so upset," they would interpret that as, "Great, now she's gone, we can go to the strippers together without you getting moaned at. Let's go." If you were looking for sympathy, you spoke to the wrong type of person. Their needs, like any narcissist, come before yours, but it's even more so with the upper lesser type A. They don't even make it a pretense of being interested in what's going on in your world. It really is all about them. They like a ready audience that's there to laugh at their conquests, to join them as a wingman or wingwoman. That they breeze through life in an entirely privileged manner, whether real or imagined, doing what they want, doing who they want, and bugger the consequences. And we see this with Prince Andrew, who I have analysed and dissected on a number of occasions with regard to his behaviour. And once again, his behaviour has resulted in collateral consequences, as you're about to hear. As per Josie Ensor and Kate Mancy, writing for The Times, Prince Andrew travelled on board Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. Yes, the ghost of Epstein continues to linger around Prince Andrew, and appeared to receive several massages, which were paid for with $200 cheques, according to newly released documents disclosed by Congress. It's no surprise that Andrew would fraternise with someone like Epstein for two reasons. He was of use to Epstein, and Epstein was of use to him. Epstein was of use to him as a consequence of financial support, and also, of course, the introduction of women, because Randy Andy, as a somatic narcissist, utilised sex heavily as a means of gaining control over people and drawing fuel from them and enjoying the pleasure that comes from sex by way of a residual benefit. He, because of his sense of entitlement, isn't thinking about how such involvement might look. The fact is that in such circumstances, his mind is focused upon what's in it for him and isn't thinking about what might be down the line. It's focused basically like a dog on heat, tongue hanging out, thinking, "Yep, I can pile in and get all of this privilege, I can enjoy myself, there are all of these women lined up for me." That is the behaviour of the entirely superficial upper lesser type A. In the documents, the Duke is listed as a passenger on Epstein's jet on May the 12th, 2000, flying from Teterboro, private airport in New Jersey, to Palm Beach, Florida, where the financier had a home. The US House Oversight Committee released a third tranche of documents on Friday that were handed over by the Epstein estate through a subpoena. Now, leaving aside what you might think about the timing of such disclosures, one document was a flight manifest, the other heavily redacted general ledger. The only name not redacted is Andrew, who is listed next to services on February 11th, 2000 of massage, exercise and yoga at the cost of £200. A number of Epstein victims have testified in civil and criminal proceedings that they were paid $200 per session for giving Epstein massages at his homes in Palm Beach, New York, New Mexico, and his private island. The name Andrew appears again on the ledger on May 16, 2000, 4 days after being flown to Palm Beach on board Epstein's personal plane. The jet gained the nickname the Lolita Express for how many young women and girls were recorded flying on it. Andrew has consistently denied claims, denial the first line of the twin lines of defence for the narcissist, that he engaged in inappropriate sexual behaviour with Epstein and Maxwell, including the abuse of underage girls. The other passengers were Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's confidant, and Perry Lang, Epstein's private chef, bodyguard, and one male. According to a more comprehensive flight log released as part of civil proceedings in the United States, the Duke was aboard Epstein's jet, which flew to the United States Virgin Islands in 1999, as well as September 2006, when he flew from Luton Airport to Edinburgh, accompanied by Maxwell. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing. The documents released by the committee also invoice Epstein's daily schedule, which shows meetings with Steve Bannon, an ally of President Trump, the tech billionaire Peter Thiel, and a potential visit to Epstein's US Virgin Island for Elon Musk. Musk is listed in the documents as being a potential visitor to Epstein's island, Little St. James, on December 6, 2014, 6 years after Epstein became a listed sex offender. His name appears on what appears to be Epstein's daily schedule, with the entry saying, "Reminder, Elon Musk to island December the 6th, is this still happening?" Musk has acknowledged meeting Epstein once briefly in Manhattan and said he declined invitations to visit Epstein's island. It is not suggested that those named in the documents were aware of the criminal activities for which Epstein was later convicted. Sarah Guerrero, the Oversight Committee's spokeswoman, said, "It should be clear to every American that Jeffrey Epstein was friends with some of the most powerful and wealthiest men in the world. Every new document produced provides new information as we work to bring justice for the survivors and victims. Oversight Democrats will not stop until we identify everyone complicit in Epstein's heinous crimes. It's time for Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all the files now." Prince Andrew is listed as a passenger on Epstein's aircraft, with financial disclosures providing possible evidence of payments from Epstein to masseuses on behalf of an individual identified as Andrew. Extensive redactions have been made to protect victims as committee investigators continue to analyse the new documents. The Oversight Committee Democrats said they received 8,544 documents in response to their last subpoena from August. It is unclear why only 6 have so far been released and why these particular ones had been chosen for disclosure. Now, you might want to read certain things into why Andrew is being picked out, but that's a topic for another occasion. Pressure has been growing on the committee to subpoena Andrew to testify as to his involvement with Epstein, as have a number of high-profile figures, including Bill Barr, the former Attorney General, and Bill Clinton, the former president, and his wife, Hillary. As a British citizen, Andrew could not be compelled to attend any such hearing. It then continues to talk about how one of Andrew's $200 massages took place a week before his 40th birthday. 3 months later, he rejoined Epstein while on a trip to the US, which was paid for by the British government. Official palace records show that Andrew flew into New York on May 11, 2000, with his equerry at the time, Major Lance Gerard Wright, who later married the television presenter Ulrika Johnson. This continues to dog Andrew and demonstrates, of course, as the superficial upper lesser type asomatic, that having a massage is something very much that he would enjoy. The cost of the same does raise a question as to what kind of massage took place, i.e. happy endings, perhaps. There is no evidence to support that, other than the inference that arises from the cost of it. But you'll also note that he, as that somatic narcissist, not only accepts the hospitality of the dodgy Epstein, but also engages in these massages, of which a record is kept. And it shows also the low cognitive function of Prince Andrew, that he allows himself to be involved in these events, thinks nothing of the collateral consequences and the fact that a record is made of the fact that he has a massage. Why would you need to keep a record? Well, naturally for Epstein, he would do so because the whole purpose of this was to manipulate these powerful figures that he fraternized with so that he could then, in effect, blackmail them for favors and assistance at a later juncture. This was his modus operandi. An upper lesser type A of the nature of Prince Andrew stupidly walked into his trap and, keen to get some action by way of massage and potentially more, he's there essentially going, hubba hubba, let me at it. And, in the circumstances, finds another record which just so happens to now have been disclosed, which demonstrates that he continues to be dogged by his association with Epstein and continues to suggest that he was deeper involved than he likes to admit. Once again, collateral consequences coming to visit the narcissist, once again the superficiality of Prince Andrew laid bare, and once again his somaticism exposed as a consequence of his need to engage in these massages. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.